So my question was about so this is because like in like the youngsters we see like a lot of like spirituality but no religion coming like up, and then people, I've talked to some people and they propose an idea just from themselves about like a deistic form of God who just like sets things into like starts things at the start and then just like goes lets things go on by themselves and isn't necessarily a moral agent.
Yeah,
So I wanted to ask for like a good way to respond to an argument like this, where they
yeah,
can understand maybe from the idea of like active dependency and why God ought to be a moral agent.
yeah. Um, the first thing I want to do is there's a wonderful brother by the name Bassam Zawadi.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Bassam Zawadi on academia.edu, he's actually written a paper on deism, right? And actually refuting a lot of the common claims and even academic claims that deists actually make for their worldview, including the things that you referred to in your question.
yeah,
And I don't think there's been anything like what Brother Bassam has written, right?
yeah,
If you go to my channel, I actually interviewed him about it. So if you want an audio version of his work and just a sort of summary, then you can put in Bassam Zawadi and put in my name, and you'll find the video. If you want to read the paper, you can actually go through the paper in some depth. But the thing is, essentially, the deist is calling for a mute God. They're basically calling for a God who is cold, who is calling for a God who is unloving, who is indifferent. And in a way, atheism and deism is similar, right? I mean, what is the practical difference between an atheist and a deist on a day-to-day basis? It's practically no difference. Only in some metaphysical it's a metaphysical belief that they hold that beyond this world there is a creator. That's it. So in essence, they are no different to atheists. And what we do find is amongst the most hardcore secularists before the atheists came and others, you had people who had, there's a wave of deism, right? Especially amongst the sort of intelligentsia in Europe. So the very concept of God, you need to look into it and you need to show them, like Brother Bassam has done, you can refer to his stuff, how it is incoherent that there is a creator who's created the world, and then somehow we're expected to believe that is indifferent to the world and everything that happens in the world, including human suffering, meaning, questions on existence, purpose, all these things that there's absolutely no guidance on. It's almost, I wouldn't say almost, it is quite insulting to God, essentially. That what's that verse in the Quran in which do people think they were created and to be
Mm. I said when I say "Utrako yakula man lahum left," and those people think that they'll be left alone and they will not be tested.
they'll not be tested.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, there's a purpose. I mean, you came onto this live stream. You did it for a purpose. So for God to create the world and have no purpose, it's a very strange thing to attribute to the divine.
yeah. Okay,
I think
yeah.
that's the
That's
thing is
interesting.
like in philosophy in the academy, there's like two strands of thought in Western philosophy. One of them is referred to as analytic philosophy. The other one's called continental philosophy. Yeah, and analytic philosophy is the strand of philosophy which deals with arguments like structures and so on, like this premise one, premise two, then therefore whatever. Whereas continental philosophy is more to do with the existential, the experience, and so on. And analytically, or if you like, systematically, you can make arguments for God's existence. But where it becomes the kind of God worthy of worship, you need a bit of, if you like, continental type philosophy, where you're dealing with purpose of life issues. Because the question, like, once you've established that God is worthy of worship, is the independent one, we're dependent on Him on all these aspects, then the question that asks itself is, so what's the purpose of this all? But before we get there, we need to see if there's such a thing as purpose in the first place. And these are all existential type questions, first person subjective type questions. And some will say, well, these subjective things, like, oh, they're not as solid as the kind of like continental type philosophical inquiries. But the truth is, the rationalist school of thought, through which you could argue the whole analytic school of philosophy is based upon, is actually based on the cogito of Rene Descartes, which is I think, therefore I am. which is a subjective realization. Because obviously he went through, like in the meditations, he went through what he calls systematic doubt, and then he came to I think therefore I am. So the point is, I think therefore I am is an introspective posture. So this is subjective, and so to dismiss the continental type philosophical inquiries, which deals with purpose and so on, as not strong enough or otherwise subjective, meaning subordinate to the analytic overlord, if you like. That's something which denies the history of the rationalist school of thought in the first place, of which obviously the analytic school is based. So you need a bit of both. Once you've made the argument for God's existence in an analytic sense, you can only really draw out this many attributes, whatever many there is. And then a lot more of them will be found through deep introspection and the existential type questions of purpose and so on. So you need to couple both. If you don't have both, it will not be successful. You need to couple a robust existential approach of introspection with the analytic type. And the Quran does both. When it says, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ, that we will show them, our signs in the horizons and in themselves until it is made clear, patently clear to them that this is the truth. Meaning there's two kinds of arguments that are being made here. There's one which is visual and, if you like, empirical, if you like, analytic, and the other one is more introspective. And both of them coalesce at the end of the day.
I never saw the ayah that way. That's that's a very. I think you should give a khutbah on this. No, seriously. Hijab's khutbahs are really good. He's talking about doing deadlifts and this and that. So let's have some of that.
I've seen the ones you posted on your channel like a few times. They're very good. They're good. Actually.
I've actually done deadlifts. There's a video coming up tomorrow on deadlifts
with that brother Khurram.
Brother, yeah.
That guy's a beast.
I was doing deadlifts in bad form. I want to go higher and higher, and he said, "No, you can't go higher."
Oh.
But you'll see me going.
Is he with the same brother, Silverback AJ?
Him, yeah. Because we're doing a 3-day split, so the second day should be coming out.
Yeah, those are good videos. I actually like that.
I like them.
Very entertaining. Yeah, very entertaining. Yeah, I do a bit of them myself. It's very useful sometimes as well.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
You can.
Don't get started, bro. It's too late.
No,
bro, please. No one wants to see that. Not this late.
Yeah. Well, thank you, brothers, very much.
Allah bless you, bro.
Take care.
I love you guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.